heaven as sort of a reply to the confusion of our world today. Well, this is the idea of people that make up our world today and people that make up our culture, and our culture is really consumed with the Kardashians, and they represent something in our culture today, and it's really not about them, it's about our global obsession with them and how they have influenced so many people. Some women think about their bodies. Definitely many people aspire to that lifestyle and to the materialism that they represent. So it's really about us rather than being a picture about them. It's really about our interest in them, our obsession with them. A sort of idea of paradise where man and nature coexist, and ideas of impossible beauty, or maybe possible, So they're my dreams and hopes, and 30 years of creating to get to this idea of paradise. And the photos were taken in Hawaii, for me, of what I thought heaven would be best illustrated, best portrayed. That's where I find peace, is in solitude, and the sublime. I find it in nature and art. And I believe that, man is a part of nature. Sometimes we might have forgotten that. These photos are a reminder. For 10 years, I worked on this series of utopia, this idea of heaven, as sort of a reply to the confusion of our world today. And I feel that religion's been put aside from materialism. It can be a very beautiful thing to have these ideas like forgiveness and unconditional love, which are taught by many of the great religions. So I wanted to depict these feelings that I've always had. Well, back in the 1980s, I was experimenting a lot in the color darkroom, and I would take a small negative and paint with the opposite colors. So I returned to this technique that I started so many years ago, but I feel that it really worked well with the new images. I made a self-portrait, and all the rooms are the different parts of what make me up, my personality. There's anger, and there's also unconditional love, and it's sort of that different compartments of your mind which make up sort of this Freudian idea of what makes up our personalities, George Harrison was one of my artistic heroes, and so it's a new series I've started of people who I've wanted to photograph, but they're from different times. Capturing their essences was the goal. Some people believe that there's a lot more to the material plane than just this moment, and that our spirit and our soul goes on. And George Harrison was definitely a believer in this idea that we lived on after our body dies. So this idea of like a collective consciousness is something, and how he touched everyone through his music, that's part of that collective consciousness, And I've always strived in my photographs to touch people the way music does. The First Supper for me represents this idea of the new world and paradise, where instead of the First Supper, and in this paradise, no one has to die as in the Last Supper, because there's no more sin. So it's sort of like a new beginning for humanity.